Welcome to our channel, where we bring you the craziest and weirdest facts about Disney that you never knew you needed. Today, we're diving deep into the magical world of Disney and revealing the hidden real-life inspirations that brought these iconic characters to life. Get ready to be amazed as we uncover the secrets behind some of your favorite Disney movies. When you think of Disney, you probably imagine a world of make-believe, a place where anything can happen and dreams come true. But did you know that this enchanting world was actually inspired by real people, places, and events? Yep, you heard that right. The Disney magic is rooted in reality. From the evil queen in Snow White to the dashing Prince Charming, these larger-than-life characters were actually based on real people. Can you believe it? One of the most iconic Disney movies of all time. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was released in 1937 and immediately became a classic. The story of a beautiful princess who escapes her evil stepmother and finds refuge with a family of dwarfs captivated audiences worldwide. But did you know that Snow White's look was actually inspired by a real person? That's right. Walt Disney's wife, Lillian Disney, was the model for Snow White's appearance. In fact, she even dubbed Snow White's singing voice. Now that's a real-life Disney princess. But that's not all. The evil queen was actually based on a combination of two real-life individuals. The first was Hedda Hopper, a popular Hollywood actress in the 1930s, known for her glamorous style and captivating performances. The second was actress Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz. Talk about a wickedly talented duo. And let's not forget about the dwarves themselves. They were actually inspired by a group of real-life dwarves who performed in a circus. Disney animators observed their mannerisms, speech patterns, and interactions to create the 7 lovable dwarves we know and love today. So there you have it. Some of the most iconic Disney characters were actually based on real people. It just goes to show that the magic of Disney is often rooted in reality. So next time you watch a Disney movie, keep an eye out for the real-life inspirations that brought these characters to life. You might be surprised at what you discover. Hey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing Disney facts. And if you want to know more about how Disney's villains were inspired by real people, stay tuned for part 2 of this series coming soon. Until then, keep watching and let the Disney magic inspire you. Hi, welcome to the channel. Today, we're retaking a magical journey through the world of animation and exploring the fascinating stories behind the beloved Disney characters we all know and love. Part 2, Snow White. Inspired by real, silent film actresses. When Walt Disney first began creating Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937, he knew he was taking a massive risk. This was going to be the first full-length animated feature film in history to succeed. Snow White couldn't just be a cartoon. She had to feel real, graceful, and relatable to audiences in the USA, UK, and beyond. So where did her inspiration come from? The answer: real women of the 1920s and 1930s. Marge Champion, the movement behind Snow White. One of the biggest inspirations for Snow White's graceful movements was Marge Champion, a talented dancer and actress. Disney's animators actually filmed her performing various scenes, walking, dancing, and interacting, and then studied her body language to animate Snow White. This technique was called rotoscoping, where real-life movements are traced into animation. Marge Champion's elegance gave Snow White her fluidity and charm, making her feel human instead of stiff like earlier cartoons. Silent film stars influenced Snow White's facial features and expressions were inspired by famous silent film actresses, particularly Janet Gaynor. Known for her innocent and delicate look, she influenced Snow White's soft eyes and gentle mannerisms. Mary Pickford, Hollywood's America's sweetheart, whose curls and sweetness helped shape Snow White's personality. These actresses represented the perfect balance of purity, charm, and star appeal that Walt Disney wanted for his princess. Cultural inspiration: the original Snow White story came from Brothers Grimm's fairy tales, German folklore. Disney kept the European roots but modernized the design so that American and British audiences could connect to her innocence and optimism. The result, Snow White became the first Disney princess, and her design made her instantly iconic. To this day, she remains one of the most recognized characters worldwide. Fun fact, when Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was released in 1937, it was such a massive success that even Hollywood stars like Charlie Chaplin praised it. Audiences were amazed because they could see something familiar, human expressions, inside a fantasy world. Coming next, Part 3. The real inspirations behind Aladdin. How a street rat became a Hollywood hero. Click the link to watch Part 3 or check out more amazing stories about the real people who inspired Disney. Welcome to my channel. This is Part 3 of our series, and today we're re-diving into the fascinating world of Aladdin and exploring the real people and inspirations behind this iconic character. When Disney released Aladdin in 1992, it quickly became one of the studio's most popular films of all time. But did you know that Aladdin's design, personality, and even his charm were not fully original? They were inspired by real-life actors, celebrities, and cultural references that shaped him into the hero audiences in the USA and UK fell in love with. From Michael J. Fox to Tom Cruise. In the earliest drafts of Aladdin, the animators modeled him after Michael J. Fox, the star of Back to the Future. The idea was to make him a little geeky, young, and relatable, someone who audiences would root for. But as the story developed, Disney felt he wasn't heroic enough. That's when they shifted gears and redesigned Aladdin to resemble Tom Cruise, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood at the time. Tom Cruise's strong jawline, confidence, and boyish charm inspired the new Aladdin. His 90s hairstyle and smile were directly adapted into the animation. The goal, to make Aladdin not just a street rat, but also a charismatic action hero type that UK and US audiences would instantly connect with. Genie. Inspired by Robin Williams himself, one of the most legendary Disney characters of all time, the Genie was shaped by the larger-than-life personality of Robin Williams. Animators recorded Robin Williams improvising lines in the studio. His wild impressions and over-the-top energy directly influenced Genie's magical transformations. In fact, many of Genie's scenes were built around Robin Williams' jokes, making Genie essentially Robin Williams in animated form. This blend of modern comedy with Arabian Nights fantasy made the movie feel both timeless and contemporary. Cultural and artistic inspiration. While Aladdin is based loosely on 1001 Nights, the collection of Middle Eastern folktales, Disney gave Agrabah a more global, fantasy look. The palaces were inspired by Taj Mahal architecture in India. The desert markets were modeled after Middle Eastern bazaars. Costumes had hints of Arabic, Persian, and even Indian styles. This gave Agrabah an exotic but familiar feel for worldwide audiences. Now, if you're curious about the real inspirations behind another iconic Disney character, stay tuned for Part 4, where we'll uncover the stories and influences behind Ariel from The Little Mermaid, a princess who changed everything. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. See you next time. Hey, everyone, it's me. Today we're taking a look at the inspirations behind the iconic villain, the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. When Beauty and the Beast premiered in 1991, audiences around the world were captivated by the romantic, tragic, and powerful figure of the Beast. But his creation was no easy task. The animators had to make a terrifying monster who was also sympathetic and, eventually, lovable. To achieve this, they pulled inspiration from real animals, historical art, and even cinema legends. First, let's discuss the Beast's animal inspirations. Animator Glenn Keane, who led the design of the Beast, didn't want him to look like a single creature. Instead, he combined traits from several animals. Lion for the Beast's magnificent mane and royal presence. Buffalo, his heavy horns, giving him strength and intimidation. Gorilla, his broad chest and powerful stance. Wild boar, his tusks, adding danger and aggression. Bear, his size, furry bulk, and certain movements. This mix gave the Beast his unique hybrid look, which felt both believable and fantastical at the same time. Next, let's talk about the Beast's voice and personality. Robbie Benson, the voice actor for the Beast, added a deep, emotional vulnerability to the character. Animators studied his facial expressions while recording and incorporated his eyes and subtle movements into the Beast's performance. The contrast between his roaring anger and his gentle, softer moments helped audiences see him as more than a monster. The Beast's tragic backstory has roots in old European folklore, especially the original Beauty and the Beast fairy tale by Guy-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont, 1756, which featured a monster with hidden humanity, medieval bestiaries, illustrated books of animals, both real and mythical, that often showed hybrid beasts, also inspired the animators. Additionally, Gothic architecture and art in Europe, which heavily featured hybrid beasts, influenced the castle's look and the Beast's dramatic, almost statue-like posture. The animators also drew inspiration from classic films such as King Kong, 1933, a mix of fear and sympathy for a giant, misunderstood creature. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1939, another tragic character, judged by appearance but with a good heart. The Beast became a combination of all these inspirations, making him one of Disney's most layered and human characters, despite his monstrous form. Lastly, fun fact, Glenn Keane once said he designed the Beast's eyes to stay human no matter what, because the eyes are the windows to the soul. This small detail helped viewers always see the prince trapped within the monster. Hey, we hope you enjoyed this look at the inspirations behind the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. Coming next, Part 6, the real inspirations behind Aladdin, from ancient tales to Hollywood icons. Part 6, Aladdin, 1992. When Aladdin first hit theaters in 1992, it became one of Disney's most beloved classics. But few fans know that the character of Aladdin himself has deep roots in Middle Eastern folklore, historical fashion, and even real Hollywood icons. The original story of Aladdin, the character of Aladdin, comes from the famous collection of Middle Eastern folk tales known as 1001 Nights, Arabian Nights. Interestingly, Aladdin's story wasn't originally Arabic. Scholars believe it was added to the collection by a French translator, Antoine Galland, in the 18th century, after hearing it from a Syrian storyteller. In the original version, Aladdin was actually a poor boy living in China, not a grubber, but he still found a magical lamp, summoned a genie, and rose to greatness. Visual inspirations. Clothing and design. Disney's Aladdin has a very hybrid look. His baggy pants, called harem pants, were inspired by traditional Middle Eastern and South Asian clothing. His open vest, however, was designed to make him look more like a youthful Hollywood hero. Animators wanted him to look charming, agile, and a little rebellious, so they borrowed ideas from real actors. Hollywood influences on Aladdin. Animator Glenn Keane revealed that Aladdin's personality and look were based on several famous stars. Tom Cruise, his confident smile and charisma influenced Aladdin's charm. Michael J. Fox, his boyish energy and quick movements inspired Aladdin's youthful vibe, a mixture of teen heartthrobs of the 80s, 90s, giving him that leading man appeal. Connection with the genie. Aladdin was designed to be slim and flexible, so he contrasted with the genie, who was big, round, and larger than life. This difference in design made their friendship funnier and more dynamic on screen. The city of Agrabah. While the story's origins mention China, Disney set the movie in a fictional Middle Eastern city, Agrabah. Agrabah was inspired by Middle Eastern bazaars, Islamic architecture, and even the Taj Mahal in India. The setting helped make Aladdin feel exotic, adventurous, and timeless. Fun fact, originally, Aladdin was designed to look younger, more like a 13-year-old boy. But after test audiences felt he seemed too much like a kid, animators redesigned him to look older, cooler, and more heroic. Coming next, Part 7, Jasmine, the real princess inspirations behind Disney's Aladdin heroine. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more. Hey, everyone, it's me. Welcome to my channel, and let's get into it. Part 7, Princess Jasmine from Aladdin, 1992. While Aladdin is the bold adventurer, Princess Jasmine became one of Disney's most iconic heroines. With her strong personality, striking beauty, and determination for independence, she stood out from the typical damsel in distress. But did you know Jasmine's design and story were influenced by real history, cultures, and even Hollywood stars? First, let's talk about the origins of Jasmine's character. In the original Arabian Nights tale, Aladdin does fall in love with a princess, but she is not called Jasmine. Disney gave her the name Jasmine, which is inspired by the flower. The name is common in Middle Eastern and South Asian culture. Jasmine became the sixth official Disney princess. But she was unique because her story focused on freedom and choice rather than just finding true love. Now, let's discuss the design and cultural inspirations behind Jasmine's iconic look. Her turquoise outfit was inspired by Middle Eastern clothing styles, but with a fantasy twist to make her stand out. Her jewelry, headband, and long hair were influenced by Persian and Indian princess aesthetics. The animators wanted her to look elegant yet approachable, combining fantasy with real cultural details. Next, let's explore the Hollywood inspirations for Jasmine's character. Several real women inspired Jasmine's look and personality. One was Jennifer Connelly. Animators studied her facial features, especially her big eyes and strong expressions. Later on, Naomi Scott, who played Jasmine in the live-action Aladdin, carried forward those design inspirations, blending East and West. Some even say Princess Jasmine's personality, bold, independent, and a little rebellious, was inspired by 90s heroines in Hollywood movies. Before Jasmine, most Disney princesses, like Snow White, Aurora, and Cinderella, had very traditional roles. But Jasmine was different. She refused to marry for power or wealth. She openly challenged her father's decisions and wanted freedom. She wanted someone who loved her for who she was, not just her royal title. This independence made Jasmine a role model, especially for young girls in the 90s. Lastly, let's talk about the setting and architecture influences on Jasmine's world. Her palace in Agrabah was heavily inspired by the Taj Mahal in India. The palace blends Arabic and Persian design elements, creating a magical yet familiar atmosphere for audiences worldwide. Now, for a fun fact, in early drafts of the movie, Jasmine was supposed to be a spoiled princess, but Disney changed her into a kind, brave, and determined heroine, making her the beloved character we know today. Thanks for watching. See ya. When we talk about Aladdin, one character truly steals the show. Genie. He is loud, hilarious, magical, and full of personality. But did you know that Genie's entire design, voice, and humor were directly shaped by one legendary actor, Robin Williams, along with other real-life inspirations? Let's dive in. The idea of the genie in the original Arabian Nights tales. The genie, or jinn, is more serious and mystical. Disney wanted a comic relief character who could also drive the story forward. The result, a genie who could change shape, tell jokes, and impersonate celebrities. Robin Williams, the soul of Genie, was designed around Robin Williams' comedy style. Animators literally watched his stand-up routines and sketched Genie morphing into different impressions. Elvis Presley, Jack Nicholson, etc. Williams recorded hours of improvised jokes. Many lines were unscripted, making Genie feel alive. This was one of the first times a Disney character was so directly tied to a celebrity's real-life persona. Visual inspirations. Genie's blue color was chosen to symbolize magic and friendliness, breaking away from the scary, dark jinn myths. His broad shoulders, big grin, and expressive eyes were exaggerated versions of Robin Williams' energy on stage. Animators gave him the ability to shapeshift instantly, which reflected Williams' quick-fire comedy style. Pop culture references. Genie constantly made jokes about real-world celebrities, TV shows, and history. For example, he impersonated Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rodney Dangerfield, and even game show hosts. This was rare for Disney at the time, a character breaking the fourth wall and directly connecting with the audience. Why fans loved Genie? He wasn't just funny. He was kind and selfless. His biggest wish was freedom, making him relatable. despite his magical powers. Robin Williams' heartfelt performance made Genie both hilarious and emotional. Fun fact, Robin Williams originally didn't want Disney to use his voice for merchandise. When Disney ignored that deal, it created tension. But eventually, Williams returned to voice Genie again because fans loved him so much. Coming next, Part 9. Scar, the Lion King. The Shakespearean villain inspired by real actors and history. Part 9. Scar the Lion King. 1994. When people think of the greatest Disney villains of all time, Scar from The Lion King almost always comes to mind. With his chilling voice, manipulative nature, and unforgettable song, Be Prepared. Scar is more than just an animated lion. He's a character deeply inspired by real-life actors, history, and even Shakespeare. Scar's personality, inspiration. Scar's cunning, sarcastic, and aristocratic personality was modeled after famous British actors like Alec Guinness and Peter O'Toole. His calm yet menacing manner of speaking was inspired by Jeremy Irons himself, the actor who voiced Scar. Animators studied Irons' expressions, posture, and gestures and directly brought them into Scar's animation. Shakespearean influence. Scar's entire story arc is based on Shakespeare's play Hamlet. Just like Claudius kills his brother to steal the throne, Scar kills Mufasa and manipulates Simba. His dramatic, almost theatrical delivery feels like it belongs on a Shakespearean stage. Visual design inspirations. Scar's dark mane and green eyes set him apart from the noble lions of Pride Rock. The scar across his face is a classic villain trope, symbolizing betrayal and danger. Animators made him slender and angular, the opposite of Mufasa's broad, majestic frame, visually showing his weakness covered by cunning. Jeremy Irons' voice and real-life touch. Scar's iconic line delivery, "Long live the king," was Jeremy Irons' unique flair. Interestingly, Irons damaged his voice while recording Be Prepared. The deep growling in parts of the song were actually finished by Jim Cummings, the voice of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, who mimicked Irons perfectly. Historical inspirations. Scar is compared to dictators and political manipulators throughout history. His rise to power echoes power-hungry rulers who use fear and deceit rather than strength. His hyena army was even animated with Nazi-like marching imagery during Be Prepared, directly inspired by propaganda films. Why Scar stands out. Scar is terrifying, not because he's the strongest or the biggest, but because he's the smartest and most ruthless. Fans love him because he's a villain with style, wit, and unforgettable lines. Fun fact, Scar was originally going to be unrelated to Mufasa and just a rogue lion, but when animators saw the Shakespearean potential, they made him Mufasa's brother, giving the story much more dramatic depth. Coming next, Part 10, Ursula, the Little Mermaid, inspired by a famous drag queen. Part 10, Ursula the Little Mermaid, 1989. When it comes to Disney villains, Ursula is in a league of her own. With her commanding presence, unforgettable voice, and sly deal-making, she is one of the most iconic villains in animation. But what makes her even more fascinating is that her character design and personality were heavily inspired by a real-life figure, the legendary drag queen Divine. The Divine inspiration, Ursula's entire look, attitude, and flamboyance were based on Divine, a famous drag performer from the 1970s and 80s. Divine was known for heavy makeup, bold fashion, and an unapologetic, larger-than-life personality. Animators borrowed Divine's dramatic eyeliner, arched eyebrows, and bold lipstick directly for Ursula's face. Her exaggerated body language, wide gestures, sultry movements, and over-the-top flair also came straight from Divine's performances. Voice and performance. Ursula was voiced by Pat Carroll, who brought an incredible mix of seduction and menace. Carroll's delivery of poor, unfortunate souls turned Ursula into a Broadway-style diva villain. Animators synced Ursula's lip movements and gestures to Carroll's voice, making the performance unforgettable. Visual elements. Instead of being slim like other Disney villains, Ursula was designed to be big, bold, and commanding. Her lower body, black tentacles, made her visually striking, contrasting Ariel's delicate mermaid tail. Her white hair, chunky jewelry, and dramatic makeup reinforced the drag queen aesthetic. Shakespearean and mythological influences. Ursula draws from sea witch mythology and folklore, especially from Hans Christian Andersen's original Little Mermaid tale. But instead of the dark, shadowy witches of folklore, Disney's Ursula is a theatrical, campy, villainous, bringing humor and power together. Why Ursula resonates with fans? She's a villain who doesn't just scare, she entertains. Fans admire her unapologetic confidence, her wit, and her willingness to challenge authority. Many LGBTQ fans especially embraced Ursula as a queer-coded character because of her connection to divine. Fun fact, originally, Ursula was almost designed as a fishy mermaid-like character, but once animators leaned into divine's inspiration, she became the fabulous sea, which we know today. Coming next, Part 11, Gaston, Beauty and the Beast. Inspired by toxic masculinity and classic villains, Part 11, Gaston, Beauty and the Beast, 1991. When people think of Disney villains, Gaston often stands out not because he uses magic or dark powers, but because he represents something much more real: toxic masculinity and ego-driven arrogance. Unlike Ursula or Maleficent, Gaston doesn't cast spells. Instead, he's dangerous because of his pride, entitlement, and ability to manipulate a crowd. The concept behind Gaston. Disney animators wanted a villain who was the complete opposite of the Beast, where the Beast is flawed but capable of love and growth. Gaston is handsome, admired, and perfect on the surface, but hollow inside. Gaston is the embodiment of arrogance, narcissism, and unchecked male ego. Visual inspiration. Gaston's design came from a mix of Hollywood leading men of the 1950s-70s. He has the square jaw, broad shoulders, and chiseled features of a classic strongman, almost like a parody of Hercules. His exaggerated muscles, slick hair, and red outfit were intentionally cartoonish to make him look like a walking stereotype. Personality, inspiration. Writers and animators drew from real-life alpha male personalities. Overly confident, entitled men who expect admiration. Gaston's obsession with Belle reflects a toxic view of relationships, where he sees her as a prize to be won, not as a person with free will. His manipulation of the townspeople mirrors the way charismatic figures in history have stirred up mobs by appealing to fear and ignorance. Voice acting magic. Gaston was voiced by Richard White, a trained opera singer. His booming, theatrical delivery gave Gaston an almost comical edge while keeping him intimidating. Songs like Gaston and the Mob Song highlight his vanity and his ability to rally people behind him. Symbolism of Gaston. Gaston is often seen as one of Disney's most realistic villains. He represents the dangers of ego, privilege, and mob mentality. Unlike magical villains, he shows that evil can exist in ordinary, charming faces. Fun fact, the animators originally considered making Gaston a comedic sidekick villain, but later they realized that making him a perfect man on the outside and a monster on the inside would create a stronger contrast with the Beast. Come in next, Part 12. Scar, the Lion King. Inspired by Shakespeare's villains. Part 12. Scar, the Lion King, 1994. Among Disney villains, Scar is one of the most chilling. He doesn't just want power. He is willing to betray his own family and destroy his kingdom to get it. His sleek, sinister design and Shakespearean personality make him one of the most iconic antagonists in animation history. The concept behind Scar. Scar is the younger brother of Mufasa, jealous of his strength, leadership, and respect from the pride. His character is heavily inspired by Shakespeare's Hamlet, where Claudius kills his brother to become king. Unlike Mufasa, who symbolizes courage and nobility, Scar embodies envy, cunning, and manipulation. Visual design. Scar's dark mane, lean body, and angular face contrast with Mufasa's powerful, golden appearance. His famous scar over his eye adds a sense of danger and mystery, though Disney never explains how he got it, making him feel even more menacing. Animators gave Scar exaggerated expressions, sly smirks, narrowed eyes, and fluid movements to make him appear like a scheming trickster, rather than a brute force villain. Personality, inspiration. Scar is modeled after classic Shakespearean villains like Claudius Hamlet and Iago Othello. He uses words and manipulation instead of physical strength. His famous line, "I'm surrounded by idiots," shows his arrogance and disdain for everyone around him, even his allies, the hyenas. Voice acting brilliance. Scar was voiced by Jeremy Irons, whose deep velvety voice gave the character a perfect mix of charm and menace. Irons' performance was so strong that even his delivery of songs, especially "Be Prepared," has become legendary. The animators even studied Irons' facial expressions while recording to add realism to Scar's sly looks. Symbolism of Scar. Scar represents corruption through jealousy and greed. His reign brings famine and destruction, symbolizing how a selfish ruler can destroy a kingdom. His rivalry with Simba is also symbolic of the struggle between rightful leadership and tyrannical power. Fun fact, originally, Scar wasn't supposed to be Mufasa's brother. Early drafts made him a rogue lion. Later, Disney changed it to make the betrayal more powerful and Shakespearean. Coming next, part 13. Ursula, the Little Mermaid. Inspired by a real-life drag queen icon. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about Disney animation, check out the series in the description or comments below. See ya. Part 13. Ursula, the Little Mermaid, 1989. When we talk about Disney villains who are larger than life, Ursula instantly comes to mind. With her wicked charm, booming voice, and unforgettable song, Poor Unfortunate Souls, Ursula is one of Disney's most iconic and flamboyant villains. The concept behind Ursula was designed to be the opposite of Ariel. Bold, confident, and ruthless. Unlike the sleek, thin villains, she was intentionally created with a big, commanding presence. Showing power comes in many forms. She embodies the dangers of temptation and manipulation, luring others in with false promises. Visual design. The animators based Ursula's design on a sea witch, but added something unique. Octopus tentacles to symbolize the mystery and danger under the sea. Her black and purple color palette reflects darkness, evil, and royalty. Her exaggerated makeup, dramatic body language, and gestures made her both terrifying and glamorous. Real-life inspiration. Divine, the drag queen. One of the most fascinating facts about Ursula is that she was directly inspired by the legendary drag queen Divine. Divine, famous for bold looks and outrageous performances in John Waters films, had the same exaggerated eyebrows, flamboyant makeup, and larger-than-life personality that became Ursula's trademark. This connection makes Ursula one of Disney's most iconic LGBTQ+ cultural figures, celebrated for her unapologetic boldness, voice acting brilliance. Ursula was voiced by Pat Carroll, whose raspy, powerful voice perfectly matched the character's mix of humor and menace. Carroll's delivery of Poor Unfortunate Souls turned the song into one of Disney's greatest villain anthems. The animators even studied Carroll's performance to capture her expressions and energy. Symbolism of Ursula. Ursula represents temptation and betrayal, preying on people's deepest desires. She manipulates Ariel by offering her dream, human legs, at a terrible cost. Her voice, her final transformation into a giant sea monster, symbolizes the consequences of unchecked greed and ambition. Fun fact, originally, Ursula was supposed to be a lionfish-inspired villain, but the animators felt the octopus design better captured her fluid, dramatic, and commanding personality. Coming next, Part 14. Cruella de Vil, 101 Dalmatians, a villain inspired by 1950s fashion icons. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the captivating world of Disney villains. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more. And don't forget to comment with your ideas for future Disney discussions. Together, let's continue to explore the magic and wonder of Disney. Until next time, keep believing in the magic. This is part 14 of our series, Disney Villains, an Animated Obsession. And today, we'll explore Cruella de Vil, the devilishly stylish villainess from 101 Dalmatians. When it comes to Disney villains, few are as instantly recognizable as Cruella de Vil. With her shocking black and white hair, long cigarette holder, and obsession with fur coats, Cruella has become a pop culture symbol of vanity and cruelty. But have you ever wondered what makes Cruella such an iconic villain? Let's delve into the fascinating elements that make her the star of this animated sensation. The origins of Cruella. First appearing in Dodie Smith's 1956 novel, The 101 Dalmatians, Cruella was a rather eccentric character. However, Disney's adaptation of the novel took her eccentricities to new heights, transforming her into one of the most flamboyant villains in animation history. In fact, her name itself is a clever play on words, Cruella Cruel plus Deville Devil, giving us Cruella Deville. Design inspiration. Disney animator Mark Davis was the creative genius behind Cruella's memorable design. He gave her skeletal features, sharp cheekbones, and a wild hairstyle to visually represent her instability and vanity. Additionally, her enormous fur coat and thin, angular frame symbolized a mix of luxury and decay. Adding to her glamorous yet unsettling presence, fashion, and real-life inspirations, Cruella's design was heavily influenced by the high-fashion icons of the 1950s and 60s. The exaggerated poses and glamorous wardrobe drew inspiration from runway models and socialites of the time. Interestingly, some historians also see parallels between Cruella and real fashion designers of the era who were obsessed with furs, reflecting the ongoing debate about vanity and extravagance in society. Voice performance. Cruella's iconic status is further solidified by Betty Lou Gerson's unforgettable voice performance. Her raspy, theatrical delivery perfectly captured the arrogance, obsession, and madness of the character, making Cruella a truly unforgettable Disney villain. Symbolism of Cruella. Unlike many Disney villains who derive their evil from magical sources, Cruella's evil stems from purely human desires for vanity and greed. This makes her all the more realistic and terrifying as she represents the dangers of unchecked human ambition. Moreover, her particular obsession with fur coats, especially those made from innocent puppies, serves as a powerful commentary on the darker side of consumer culture. Fun facts. Did you know that in early drafts of 101 Dalmatians, Cruella was a much more subdued character? However, the animators took creative liberties, turning her into the cartoonish embodiment of evil glamour that we know and love, or should I say fear, today. Coming next, part 15. Scar, the Lion King, 1994, a Shakespearean villain, inspired by classic tragedy. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of Disney villains. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe for more updates. Until next time, remember, beware the claws of Cruella de Vil. Part 15. Scar the Lion King, 1994. When talking about iconic Disney villains, Scar from The Lion King is always near the top of the list. With his deep voice, scheming mind, and unforgettable line, "Long live the king," Scar is a villain that left a mark on audiences worldwide. But what many don't realize is that Scar's character was shaped by classical literature, history, and even real lions. Shakespearean inspiration. The creators of The Lion King have openly admitted that Scar's storyline mirrors Shakespeare's Hamlet. In the play, Prince Hamlet's uncle Claudius murders the king Hamlet's father to seize the throne. Similarly, Scar murders Mufasa to claim leadership of the Pride Lands. The themes of betrayal, power, and family drama were directly borrowed from this timeless tragedy. Personality and character design. Scar was animated by Andreas Deja, one of Disney's master villain animators. To distinguish Scar from Mufasa, Deja gave him a sleeker, thinner frame, a scar over one eye, hence his name, and cunning, fluid movements, like a shadow creeping across the savannah. His design was meant to reflect intelligence and manipulation rather than brute strength. Voice inspiration. Jeremy Irons. Scar's chilling personality comes largely from Jeremy Irons' voice acting. Irons gave Scar a refined, almost aristocratic tone that dripped with sarcasm and disdain. His performance was so influential that the animators adjusted Scar's expressions to match Irons' delivery, especially in the famous Be Prepared song. Real-life lion behavior. Interestingly, Scar also reflects aspects of real lion behavior. In the wild, Male lions often fight for dominance, and weaker males are driven out by stronger rivals. Scar represents this exiled, resentful lion who plots to take over. His alliance with hyenas reflects nature as well. Predators sometimes form uneasy relationships for survival. Symbolism of Scar. Scar is more than just a villain. He represents jealousy, betrayal, and the hunger for power. Unlike magical villains, Scar's evil is rooted in human flaws, greed, and envy. His fall after ruling the Pride Lands symbolizes how corruption and selfishness destroy even the most cunning rulers. Fun fact: Scar's green eyes and darker mane were specifically chosen to make him look sinister compared to Mufasa. The hyena trio, Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed, were inspired by Shakespeare's fool characters, who serve as comic relief while aiding the villain. Scar's voice in other languages also carries aristocratic tones, keeping his manipulative essence across cultures. Coming next, Part 16. Ariel, the Little Mermaid, 1989. A Disney princess inspired by myth, literature, and real human mannerisms.